Hey guys, this is Dr. Chris Morgan, and he preached this weekend on the glory of God in the church. That's the title. What was that the title? Basically?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to him because really he's the preacher this week. So here you go.
Hey guys. He wants me to rehash, I guess, this message and give you a feel for it. I'll give you the 6 ideas and then we'll talk about the essence of it. I began by talking about what is God's plan for my life is the question that every one of us ask. But if we will help people understand that they will only find the answer to God's plan for their life once they understand God's plan for life, that will then enable them to ask better questions. And by the way, in fact, a lot of people are asking, who am I supposed to marry and what job am I supposed to have, and all these questions. And most of the time in church history, people's parents made those decisions for them, and now we're asking 18-year-olds to try to make life decisions that are pretty heavy. And so without the sense of overall purpose, it's going to be overwhelming to many. So if we can give them some clarity of what the real question is, that all they really need to worry about is how to relate to God, know what God is doing, how to serve what God is doing, and how they find themselves in what God is doing. They can figure out their gifts, and they can figure out their vocation. They can figure out how that applies to them in a million ways as they walk in wisdom with that insight. Also, in terms of that, we had 6 ideas. The first 4 were critical, but they're more setup ideas. God's ultimate end is His glory. And God's glory, what does that mean? That God is seeking to be worshiped and is creating a worshiping community, and that God is going to display Himself in the world. Then God's ultimate end drives His eternal plan, which is tied to what Adam and Eve lost in the fall. Adam and Eve were created with the right relationship with God, with themselves, with each other, and with the earth, and they blew it. In the fall, the relationship with God is warped, the relationship with self warped, with one another warped, and with the land warped. But thankfully, God's on a purpose of reconciliation, cosmic unity, Ephesians 1, 9, and 10, in which He's going to address all of that and bring about restoration. Then number 3 is God accomplishes this eternal plan through Jesus, essentially, and His saving work, His sinless life, His substitutionary death, His representative resurrection is what pulls all this together. In Christ is the 4th idea, that God applies all of this to us in Christ, that the Spirit of God takes what Jesus has done for us and connects us to it. What He did for us externally, objectively in history is applied to us personally and subjectively through the internal work of the Spirit. And what an amazing thing that is. And that leads to 4 to 5 and 6, that God showcases this ultimate plan of cosmic reconciliation, cosmic unity through us. We become the display people about what God is going to do in heaven. So the Jews and Gentiles coming together in Ephesians 2, 11 and 12 sets up what God is going to do ultimately. Ephesians 3, 9 through 12 unpacks how He's displaying His wisdom through the oneness of the church. We take for granted the oneness of the church sometimes, in terms of that, of course, He created us to be one, but why is so important, and He is communicating what's going to happen. And then lastly, God is not only going to display what He's going to do in this new creation, He's actually displaying Himself in part to the world. Not His power, not His infinity, not His omniscience, things like that, but His goodness, His love, His grace, His patience, His kindness. In Ephesians 2, 1 through 3, Paul talks about how we used to walk in sin according to the course of the world, according to the power of Satan, according to the flesh. And then in chapter 2, though, verse 4, but God is rich in mercy, with His great love with which He loved us. He made us alive together with Christ. And the end result of that is He creates us in Christ unto good works, that we should walk in them. So we used to walk the wrong way, now we walk the right way. So God didn't just save us from hell and sin, He saved us unto a life of goodness, in which we reflect the good attributes of God, what God is like. So we begin in, like Ephesians 4:1, we reflect His unity. We walk in unity. We walk in holiness. We walk in light. We walk in truth. We walk in love. We walk in forgiveness. We walk in patience. Things like that display that. And then the imagery that we used, twofold. One, I'm in Sean's office. I don't find a trophy case. Sorry, but and there actually probably are trophies in here, but um, the trophy case idea that there was the trophy case exists to do what? Not to display itself, but to display the trophy. A picture frame exists to do what? Not to just be cool, but to highlight the picture. So we're a trophy case, we're a frame for the sake of God being glorified. So all that rolls together. As we display God, we glorify God. If you're, this crowd is teachers, right, Sean? So you might just notice, if you think about it, point 1 and point 6 go together, point 2, point 5 go together, and point 3 and point 4 go together. 3 and 4 go together, what God accomplished and how he applied it. Point 2, God's eternal plan and his purpose, and then God's eternal plan as it unfolds, our salvation, our connection to the church as the steps toward cosmic unity. And then point 1 and point 5, the display of God is a way in which God glorifies himself. So we get to be a part of this thing. This isn't just some cool theological truth, which it is cool, but this isn't just idea level. This defines me. This defines you. This defines the church. We exist for this. And if we're trying to see what God really wants us to be, we've been created as in the image of God to image God. And now we're actually imaging God because of Christ's work on our behalf and because of the Spirit's work in our hearts, bringing forth these fruits of the Spirit, which are the goodness of God. Also, a couple passages you might look into. Exodus 34, 6 and 7 talks about God's character, and then compare that to the fruit of the Spirit. It's amazing how similar they are. That our attitudes and actions flow out of what God is like through the work of the Spirit in our hearts. And then notice also the Revelation 21 and 22. What the church is to be like is almost identical to what heaven is going to be like. We're not there yet, but we're on the way. So we're already and not yet in the kingdom. The rule and reign of God has happened, and yet it is going to happen more fully. And we are a part of both. We're part of right now, and we're a part of what's coming in the future. So it was a delight to be with you guys. It's a privilege to serve alongside you in the kingdom, and hopefully Cal Baptist and Clovis Hills can continue to be good networkers in the future of being of use to you as raising up more and more of your leaders, and appreciate you and all you're doing for Fresno and around the world.